This is a hearing that's kind of serious about AI. But as Kennedy is asking the witnesses questions, he says something that's a joke, and it just makes the whole room crack up. Go watch to see what the joke was.
Mr. Daly, if I am a recipient of content created by generative AI, do you think I should have a right to know that content was generated by a robot?
Yes, I think you do. I think the details would depend on the context, but in most cases, I think,
Okay.
I or anybody else, if I receive something, I'd like to know, is this real or was this generated?
There are situations where you probably wouldn't expect to be dealing with the product of generative AI, and in those instances...
Well, that's the problem.
Right. But as times change, it's possible that our expectations change, and so...
But as a principle, do you think that people should have a right to know when they're being fed content from generative AI?
I tell my students, it depends on the context. Generally speaking, if you're vulnerable to generative AI, then the answer is absolutely yes.
What do you mean if you're vulnerable?
So there may be situations...
I'm just looking for...
Sure.
No disrespect.
No, not at all.
A straight answer.
Absolutely.
I kind of like... I like two things,
listen.
breakfast food and straight answers.
I love them.
And
Well,
if a robot is feeding me information and I don't know it's a robot, am I entitled to know it's a robot as a consumer? Pretty straight up.
yeah, I think the answer is yes.
Okay. All right.
In a lot of
Start back with Mr. Daly. Am I entitled to know who owns that robot and where that content came from? I know it came from a robot, but somebody had to goose the robot to make it give me that content. Am I entitled as a consumer to know who owns the robot?
I think that's a harder question that depends on the particular context. I think, if somebody is feeding me a video and it's been identified as being generated by AI, I now know that it's generated, it's not real. If it's being used, for example, in a political campaign, then I would want to know who
But let me stop you.
informed it.
Let's suppose I'm looking at a video and it was generated by a robot. Would it make any difference to you whether that robot was owned by, let's say, President Biden or President Trump? Don't you want to know in evaluating the content who owns the robot and who prompted it to give you this information?
I would probably want to know that. I don't know that I would feel it would be required for me to know that.
How about you, Mr. Smith?
I'm generally a believer in letting people know not only that it's generated by a computer, but who owns the program that's doing it. The only qualification I would offer, and it's something you all should think about and would know better than me, there are certain areas in political speech where one has to decide whether you want people to act with anonymity. The Federalist Papers were first published under a pseudonym. And I think in the world today, I'd rather have everybody know who's speaking.
Okay,
But you should think about it.
Professor?
I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint you again, Senator, with a not straight answer, but I agree.
How do you feel about breakfast food?
Right. I am pro-breakfast food.
Okay.
So we agree on that. I agree with Mr. Smith. I think that there are circumstances where you'd want to preserve anonymous speech, and there are some where you absolutely would want to know who.
Okay. Well, I'm not. I don't want to go too over. Obviously, this is an important subject.
This makes me ask the question, why is AI, or why was AI even invented? Why do we need AI, right? In the work field, it's to make our work easier. So if you want to write a report, like the college kids and people in school, you can ask AI to write you the report. Or soon down the road, instead of hiring reporters to write stories and stuff, you can have AI. So there's a work component to it, which kind of sucks because it's just put more Americans out of business. But anyways, it's being taken advantage of, and people are using AI to make it sound and look like the person is saying it, but a person that they like, let's say they want Trump, right? They'll make a robot that sounds and looks like Trump is saying it, but he's not saying it, right? So Kennedy is right in asking the question that there really should be in every post or every article, whatever it is, video that is AI driven, that there should be a disclaimer that says this is a robot, this is an AI robot, and the party or the person who sent it out is X, Y, and Z. Both of those things are important moving forward, I feel, and having, when you're using AI, to pretend a person is saying something, because it should be our right as Americans to know where the information is coming from. And to know that, we should be able to be told up front it's a robot and who sent it. And you know why that's important? Obviously, because then we can make a better judgment. Do we want to even trust or listen to the information? But on the other side of it, they probably are going to fight it and not want that information to go out because they want you to believe the false information they're putting out there.